Hey there, everyone. Welcome to A Slice of Life with Kellie and Jon. Today's guest is Morley Bartnoff, and he also has a stage name when he does his music, Cosmo Topper. And we are going to find out much more about that. He has a really interesting background, and he has played music with some fantastic musicians. And you're a keyboardist? Is that what you
Yes, that's my
keyboards?
main instrument, and I play guitar as well.
Oh, okay. All right. And you met Jon. Where did you
I
guys meet? In Hollywood?
I met him, I believe, because I was playing music for Chris Carter's movie at the Silent Movie Theater. He hosted Beatle movies, and I was the keyboard player. And I believe John saw me play there, if that's correct.
That is correct. We
Okay.
were just talking about that, and probably the first night that I saw you, because you did it several times. Uh,
Yes.
he would rent the silent movie theater maybe like once a month or something, and he would run these Beatle films or documentaries and things. It was quite great. But Morley would be up at the piano, up at the front of the screen, in between, while people were assembling and filling up the theater. And he would just be knocking off these Beatles songs without any sheet music in front of him and just flowing one right into the other. And of course, me being a Beatle lunatic, I eventually had to know this guy. So I walked up to him and just told him, I had to know him, and we became friends. And it was only a short time after that that Morley began inviting me to see him perform with the very long-running musical show in Los Angeles and elsewhere called Just Imagine, which was a show of a gentleman, Tim Piper, who performed as John Lennon and did a great John Lennon. And Morley was technically in the backup band and was and I hate to say this, guys, in the band next to Tim Piper up on stage, Morley was the focal point. He became the center of attention with his performance on the keyboards, and his just his stage presence was
Wow.
great. So I must have seen that show in LA at least a dozen times. I brought as many of the well-known people as I knew to all of these shows. I brought Pamela DeBar's once or twice. Brought Richard Portnow. Many people. But anyway, uh, I think it's time for Cosmo to talk about Cosmo.
Well,
Wait a
I
minute.
would say that the synchronicity of playing Beatles songs for Chris Carter's Beatle movies at the Silent Movie Theater on Fairfax in West Hollywood was someone filmed me playing, which I thought maybe was you. Someone filmed it and gave it to Tim Piper. Tim Piper called me from seeing that film and said, I saw you playing. I want you to be in my production, and this is what it's going to be. And with that, it was a 10-year production where we went to Chile, we went to Iceland,
Oh,
Canada many
wow.
times, Cancun, the Hard Rock, and we toured the United States. But our home was really in NoHo, in the NoHo Variety Arts Center, which is a theater district. And then we went to the Hayworth Theater, named after Rita, on Wilshire Boulevard, where we had a residency for about 3.5, 4 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, I wish I was the one that had filmed you and passed that along to Tim. I didn't know Tim
Right,
at this point,
right.
but boy, I would have been extremely happy if I was that person who passed that
That's
video.
Capito, the place where you saw it. So that was
Yeah,
the
yeah, absolutely. And
Wow.
I remember one time I was in Pennsylvania and you guys were playing in Pennsylvania. I drove like 70, 80 miles just
I'm,
to do that. And we set it up so that I sat on an aisle seat so that when Tim walked through the audience singing songs, he'd see me but not know I was going to be there. And it was great to just have him do that. And he gets to me in the middle of Pennsylvania, and he's used to seeing me in LA, and he just stopped what he was doing and bent over and shook my hand, which was very,
Oh,
I was
Great
honored
moment.
for
Yeah.
all. But that was great. Yeah, those were great times. So,
Yes.
and Morley's also one of the inductees at the very first Las Vegas Hall of Fame for music,
wow.
right?
Awesome.
Right. Well, there's a little bit of history there because when I was in high school, 16, the bass player of the most successful local original band, let's make that because most bands in Vegas until the 90s or 2000s just played cover tunes. But there was a nine-piece horde band when I was in high school. We were called Who's the Father? That was the name of the band. It sounded like a cross between Blood, Sweat, and Tears and Chicago, which was kind of the thing then. But we
Yeah.
had our own original sound, and I wrote my first original song called "Go Pray in the Forest." And we opened for Delaney and Bonnie and Jethro Tull and
Oh,
Sweetwater, who was very big at the time, and another band called Smith, who had a #1 record called
Smith.
"Baby It's You," a
Oh,
cover.
I loved their version of Baby It's You, and that lead singer was just unbelievable. They just never went anywhere nationally after that.
Right.
What's his name?
So
Yeah.
that was my experience in high school. It kind of began my beginning roots of recording and playing live concerts when I was in high school. So that's why that band was inducted because we kind of established a thing where local bands started opening for really big bands like Zeppelin or Jethro Tull. And there was a little bit of a scene, and that Las Vegas Rock Hall is also a DVD where they filmed it. And I guess the biggest act that people might hear of from the 70s was a folk duo by the name of Batdorf and Rodney. Now, Mark Rodney is the son, here's how Vegas goes, of Red Rodney, who is the trumpet player in Charlie Bird's band. And if you go see the movie Bird, here's how everything is connected that Clint Eastwood directed. Red Rodney plays himself in the
Oh,
movie.
wow.
So there's the thread,
wow.
and Vegas has a lot of kids that were the sons or daughters of people that might have played on the strip.
Well,
That was
I mean, considering it's Las Vegas, you don't really know the people that come out of Vegas. It's always Las Vegas, the city. That's when you think of Las Vegas, it's always the city and everything about it, not the talent that came out of Las Vegas. I guess primarily it's just the talent that goes to Las Vegas that we think about.
in the beginning, that was true. But in the 90s and 2000, a band called The Killers was signed out of Las Vegas.
Hmm,
And they had 5 platinum albums worldwide.
right.
And there was another band called Panic in the Disco. And there's another brand new band. And there's 3 or 4 bands on major labels now. This is only in modern times that are literally not only from Vegas, but they brag that they're from Vegas because it's kind of a unique thing. There are now 3 or 4 major label bands that got signed because they lived in Las Vegas, and that's a new reality. It's
Well,
not
what
something.
time, what year did you get to LA and decide this is where you're going to be?
Great question, and I'll tell you. I was in a production at UNLV, the University of Jesus Christ Superstar, and a woman came to see me perform, and I played piano at one point during the middle of the show. And her name was Maxine Sellers. She had an album out on Capitol, and she was a folk blues artist. And she said, I want you to be in my band. Come to Beechwood Canyon and play my piano. We're going to do my songs. So when Jesus Christ Superstar closed, I went to Beechwood Canyon. I went to her 2-story beautiful house inside the canyon, and I played her songs. And she said, You're in my band. We're going to play once a week at this club. Here's how much I'll pay you. And we're going to play the Troubadour in about 3 weeks, opening for Ramblin' Jack Elliott, who had just gotten off the Dylan tour. And that was my entry level into playing with professional people that had records out. That was 1976.
At the Troubadour.
The Troubadour, yeah, it was an amazing. There were seats at the Troubadour at the time, not now where you have to stand unless you have a reserved seating. And that we played. Robert Hilburn was there, Jackson Brown was there, and I remember playing that piano on the Troubadour stage and thinking all of the people that had played that same piano, from Elton to Joni Mitchell to you name it, to Herbie Hancock, everybody you can think of played this piano, and I thought, this is what I want to do.
Wow. I used to bartend at the Troubadour.
Well,
And
you know about it then.
one
Yeah,
of the highlights of all the bartended in a lot of clubs in LA, and people would show up, famous people would show up and sing, and Stevie Nicks showed up one night, and that
yeah,
was just
yeah.
unbelievable because, as you know, it's such an intimate little place. It's very small. You're very close to the stage, and that was a big treat that I'll never forget. But when you think of all the people that played on that stage
Amazing.
through the years, yeah,
Amazing.
it's a
Bill
story.
King, James Taylor, and both the Byrds started there as a folk trio on Hoot Night, which was Monday night. You just signed up and played. And Linda Ronstadt played with the Eagles
Wow.
there before anybody knew who they were on Monday nights, and became one of the two biggest acts in America, right, in a long
Yeah.
time. And that started by playing the Hoot Night at the Troubadour on Monday nights.
Wow. Yeah, that was back when.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, the Sunset Strip, a lot of bands started out there
Amazing.
that way.
Amazing time. I think about it. Like, it used to be from Orange County to the Deep Valley, there would be a minimum of 50 to 75 major clubs where people would go see bands, and it was a vibrant scene, and people were getting
Yeah.
signed to record deals, and it was a magical time to be playing music in Los Angeles during that time period.
Yeah. It's Yeah, it's a little sad that it's changed because they say it's not like that anymore. I'm not there, I don't know, but I was there in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and it was just crazy the people that you could see and the ones that were famous that would just come back. And of
Yes.
course, because they wanted to just play a little intimate little venue, or just out of memories, maybe that's where they played when they were first starting out. And now it's just not like that, I guess. It's kind of dried
There's
up.
occasionally, every once in a while, a major band will come and do what you're talking about, just because now it's so unique. So,
Mhm.
for instance, when Yes celebrated their 50th anniversary, whoever's still in Yes, it's not the same band, went back to the Whiskey and this was only about 3 or 4 years ago, and they charged everybody the same ticket price that was what
Uh,
you when you first went to go see them in 1969, which was probably $3.50 or $5. And
yeah.
that's what they did.
Wow.
Now it's a unique special night, which used to be every night at
Yeah.
the Roxy or the
Yep.
Whiskey, and then what eventually became the House of Blues in West Hollywood in the, I want to say, 90s and 2000. When I started playing with this great band Drama Rama, that was kind of one of our home bases, was the House of Blues in West Hollywood. John, did you ever go there?
Oh, the House of Blues, yeah.
Yeah. It was a great
That's
place.
where I reconnected with the Vanilla Fudge with Carmine and Timmy
Well,
when I moved to LA. Within about a year, a friend of mine was doing promo for the House of Blues. She's called me up. She goes, "You know a couple of the guys in the Vanilla Fudge, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I do." She goes, "Well, I can get you in." I says, "Well, you got to get me backstage." And so as soon as I went backstage, I saw Carmine, and then he brought me over to Timmy, and the old friendship was rekindled.
fantastic. It's one of the first concerts I saw at the Las Vegas Ice Palace before I played there, like 8 years later, was Vanilla Fudge. I think 1969, 1970. It was amazing.
They were actually they were done by 70. It was 69. Yeah, yeah. 'Cause
Yeah,
they
yeah.
started Cactus
That was the original four. It was Mark
yep,
Stein,
yep.
Yeah, it was, and the incredible rhythm section. I remember Tim Bogart took a bass solo. I'd never heard anything like that before.
Wow.
Nobody did, but
Yeah,
you're
no,
right.
rest,
Yeah.
rest in peace. Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
So what's on the horizon? What's going on with you?
Well, I finished up a few really cool things. Cosmo Topper just played. I'm part of this long-term Wild Honey Foundation orchestra, and what they do, they play one really big show at a gigantic theater in Glendale, and I sometimes play my own songs, and sometimes I'm in the part of the orchestra. And what we do, so when we did the Buffalo Springfield, Richie Foray was the special guest. When we did a Love and Spoonful show, and we reunited the three living members. And we just did this, the Nuggets box set
Right?
anniversary with Lenny Kaye, and most of the people that are still living came in and did the songs from that incredible 60s psychedelic garage. We had people from the
Mm.
Electric Runes, the Count Five, and like I said, I got to play Pushing Too Hard with the original Seeds keyboard player, and then I played. I'm one of my favorite all-time bands is Arthur Lee and Love, and Johnny Echo's the founding guitar player. Their big song was Little Red Book. I'm sure you remember that, and that's actually was from a movie. And I got to play their other song, which is Seven and Seven Is. So that's I just played that gig, and then of course I had my yearly gig on Christmas Sunday. I go to Chris Carter's and I underscore his entire Breakfast with the Beatles show with my friends Jim Laspiza and Mark Englert and producer Louise. We are
Right.
the underscore. So that's what most recently happened.
Wow.
Now you got tell people, I know what wild honey is. A lot of the rest of the planet may not. Uh, Go ahead.
Sure. Well, Wild Honey Orchestra was founded primarily by Paul Rock, and it was primarily formed to play music and to raise money for autism, the develop of great
Oh,
cures. And here's the magical thing about Wild Honey is Paul's son is nonverbal on the spectrum, cannot communicate. And I think people tended to think, well, because he's nonverbal and autistic, he wasn't very smart. But the opposite was true. And when we were
yeah.
in COVID lockdown, Jake said, learn to communicate on an iPad. He learned to type words, which translated into sound. And he said, I want you to call me Jacob, not Jake. And I've written a symphony in my head, and I need somebody to help me compose it. So they've got the
Wow.
guitarist, the music director. They composed this symphony. They then had UCLA or USC orchestra come and volunteer. They had a grant. They performed it. It was filmed on a DVD, and then CBS Morning came in and did a 10-minute piece on Jacob, and they just went to
Mhm.
New York and had a piece of that, his symphony, danced by a major dance company, and eventually it could wind up on a really big stage in New York. So that's one of the things that Wild Honey does. It finds ways to help the progressive healing of people with autism. And I've watched this happen. I participate with them, and that's one of the main things I do every year.
Wow, that's
Wow.
great. That's
Yeah.
great. It's the interesting thing is we interviewed a kid, a 13-year-old kid who wrote a book, and he's on the spectrum, but this kid was quite fantastic. And
Yeah.
then also coming up, that'll be appearing soon, will be Lynette Louise, who is out of LA, but actually now out of Simi Valley. But she is somebody who helps people, a
Works
therapist
with autistic people.
who helps all the autistic people. So, and here you are doing this. Obviously,
Yeah.
autism is a much bigger thing than we ever hear
Well,
about or
very
talk.
inspiring and inspiring to me to, we here we were doing all these benefit concerts, and then really it was in our home base where something so profound happened, and we could actually
Yeah.
see what the potential is of people that you may think, oh, they're not able to communicate, you don't think much of them, and this is very inspirational to so
Right.
many people. I did want to say that that's what I've been doing most recently. But I would like to talk about a couple things, which is in the 80s, which you mentioned, I was in a band that we played Madame Wong's Chinatown, which was a big club in the 80s
Yeah.
every Monday night. And that band was called Burning Sensations. And that band was led by Tim McGovern, who was in the Motels, and we were signed to Capitol. When MTV did videos, we had a video, and that song was called Belly of the Whale. And that's my most notable record recording that was on, had a video. We toured with Roxy Music and Madness and Peter Tosh. And that was a great experience. That lasted for about 3 or 4 years. If you go to YouTube, do a search on Belly of the Whale. It's kind of a wild video back in the day when MTV used to show videos. And the other thing about that band, you may know there was a movie in 1984 called Repo Man, which told about a guy that repossessed cars. It kind of had a
Right.
rock, and we have a song in that soundtrack too. So that
Oh,
was
wow.
my other thing that I did after Maxine. And then, of course, John knows this. Um, One day I was playing with this great songwriter named Stu and his lady friend Heidi. They eventually went on to have a Broadway show called Passing Strange. And we were playing at the Derby, which is a well known club that existed in Los Feliz. And one night, Stu hurt his knee right before we were supposed to do a gig. And Chris Carter, who was managing Stu at the time, called me and said, Morley, we need to fill that slot. So Dramarama is going to do a mini reunion, but we want you to come and play piano. And of course, Dramarama had one of the most famous alternative rock songs on K Rock called Anything, Anything. And I was very excited because I was a fan. So I showed up to play one song, I played two, and then VH1 Bands Reunited said, we want to do a Dramarama reunion. So they asked me to come and play two songs. It was filmed for VH1. And that started my 15-year job as being the side piano player for Dramarama. We played Central Park. We played the Lollapalooza site. We played the Coliseum. We toured and we played this one gig. And that's something I did for almost 15 or 20 years. So now you almost have the whole background, which of course then led me to do Just Imagine, which is where John comes in.
Wow. So you've done quite a lot. I have a question, and I've never asked any musician this, but I just thought of it. Did you always know, like, I'm just going to be a musician? Like, is that a plan? Is that, or does it happen by accident?
And here's how it started. My parents were perceptive enough to put the AM radio when I crawled out of bed, it was within reach for me to turn the on button. So I grew up listening to Motown, soul music, Beach Boys, and then eventually the Beatles. And they knew that I would either be singing or humming, so they were perceptive enough to eventually get me a piano. They didn't. I think in their perfect world, I would have been a doctor or a lawyer because they make more money automatically, right? But they were perceptive enough to know, and I had a really
Huh.
good ear. I could hear a melody, and I could immediately, without even taking lessons, recreate that melody on the piano. So they thought, let's do this. Let's get them some lessons. But I'll tell you when I really knew I wanted to do it in the 10th grade, they had a talent show at my high school, Clark High. And my mother had bought me a microphone that I could put inside the acoustic piano, and it sounded much louder. So for the talent show, I played Summer Rain by Johnny Rivers. Do you know that song?
Oh, yeah, of
And
course.
in the middle, Johnny sings Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. He sings that as part
A
of the
line,
song.
yeah, that's a line
So
in.
when it came to that, I was playing instrumentally, I took this rock and roll solo like Jerry Lee Lewis. And at the end of that song, the entire school stood up and cheered. And I thought, this is what I want to
That's
do.
what you want to do.
You got encouragement.
That that moment, right? We're thinking, wow, I
Uh,
kind of found my thing, and I got the
yeah.
feedback I needed. And I'm still on the long journey. I'm still doing it now,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
some people would think there must be more of a secure, consistent business, but I have no plan B. That's what I can tell you.
Yeah. It seems like it gets in your blood for certain people. They just, I don't know. Because I was in the rock scene. I'm not a musician, but I was around it. I have two friends that are musicians, and they do it. They just still do it now, and they've just never stopped doing it. It's like something you have to do, or in your blood, or whatever. I wish I could sing or do music, but
Yeah, but
yeah, it's got to be fun.
the appreciators and the people that enjoy it, or the people that have Zoom podcasts or whatever it is, are the other part of it. Because without that, no one would know, or it actually expands the hologram of what it is. So the
Yeah.
appreciators are equally as important as the people that do it.
Yeah. Well, music is just such a part of our lives. I mean, the memories and make you happy, make you sad, it's just so much a part of our emotional life. And it's always there, it's in the background, it's at the grocery store, it's everywhere you go.
Right.
There's always music playing somewhere. And if your
Who's
house is musical,
the
even better.
pianist? Now, this is going to be an interesting question because I've seen you play the piano, straight
Yeah,
piano, but then I've also seen you play keyboards that have 4,200 other sounds on them.
Oh,
So you're also, let's just call it the electronic world. So in the piano world,
yeah.
who influenced you? And then in the electronic world, who influenced you?
That's a good question. When I was a junior or senior in high school, I had a friend that was managing Who's the Father. His name was Dennis Turner. He went on to become a really successful big manager. He handled Kenny G and George Benson, like the actually really big
Right.
artists that were playing worldwide. But before he did that, he was booking smaller concerts. And one day he called me up and said, Morley, I have a chair for you in Reno in the back for Elton John. And Elton at that point was only beginning to become big. Maybe Tumbleweed was about to come out. It was the first or second album. And I sat behind Elton and I saw this incredible piano player. People think he's got this great voice, he's a songwriter, but not a lot of people say what an amazing piano player he was. And that blew my mind. And I thought, wow, this is so important. And Nicky Hopkins, those two were absolutely quintessential in me
Right.
wanting to play a
Right.
piano.
Well, I mean, that's a great dichotomy. Yet you have the man who is the most recognizable and lived to be the most recognizable,
yeah.
and then you have Nicky Hopkins, who played probably on more albums sold than even Elton John's. Nicky played on more combined albums, and most people would never be able to pick him out of a crowd.
Although they know him all the time because for the intro to She's a Rainbow by the Rolling Stones.
Oh,
For
played
the
piano with Lennon on Imagine.
on Imagine. And the other thing is the Stones. And here's what I want to say about
Can't
Nicky.
always get what you want. That's his piano on there.
Wow.
Actually, that's Al Cooper.
Oh.
No way.
Yeah,
No way.
piano. Yeah, on
Al
that Al
Cooper?
Cooper piano and French horn on that song.
Oh, I have to look that up, but okay.
Yeah, you'll see. Believe me, that's something I would know.
Al Cooper on the Stone song?
On French horn and piano. And if you think about the little trill that he's doing, the little three notes, that's Al Cooper.
You kill me. I fell off the ladder there for a minute. Wow. Okay, because I
I don't
always
know.
thought Nicky Hopkins did that.
Yeah, Nicky did play with the Stones. You're totally right about that. He is playing like on
He's
Jumpin'
on,
Jack.
and he's on the Rock and Roll Circus, the
Oh,
movie.
yeah, yeah.
Playing, you can't always get what you want.
Right.
That's
Yes,
why
he did that.
that's why I assumed he was on the recording.
Say.
Yeah. Will you look it up and get back to me when
I
you have?
will.
Yeah. Good.
Huh. Yeah, I'm
Okay, so
trying to look it up. It
okay,
doesn't say who the keyboardist
and
is.
you can't always get what you want, really?
Yeah.
Well, not where I'm looking. There's a
Oh,
bunch of
okay.
different stuff. Oh, Al Cooper plays piano and organ. as well as the French horn intro.
Thank you very much. I rest my CD case, Your Honor.
I
Yep.
I bow to you on that,
I
and
will
like
say, just to put a little period under Nicky Hopkins, Nicky Hopkins was so important to the artists that he played with that Jefferson Airplane, Steve Miller, and Quicksilver Messenger Service curated albums to feature Nicky's playing way up front.
Wow.
oh
Very
yeah,
Big.
he was there. Okay,
yeah.
electronic music.
Um, I'm going to go back and say the first sounds that really impressed me were the simple sounds of Keith Emerson on the ballads of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So Lucky Man,
Right,
uh,
right. The
not,
original, like, the Moog, using the Moog synthesizer.
not the solos, not the loud many noises. I thought to be honest with you, I thought Keith overplayed on his synthesizer, but I loved his sounds. And the other person is Tony Kaye and Rick Wakeman of Yes.
Right. I'm surprised you said Tony Kaye. He was pretty basic,
That's what I love the
compared to
most.
the other guys, compared to Rick Wakeman and Keith Emerson.
And you're making my point. My favorite Yes, I loved Fragile. I love Close to the Edge. But my favorite Yes on an old school level are the first three albums. The Yes album,
Right.
the Word. And I know they're not nearly as great as starting with Fragile.
Well, a lot of it had to do with the recording studio quality at the time too. I mean,
Yeah.
what you were looking to do with those bands, their first couple of albums were probably 4 track, maybe 8 track. You,
Maybe, yeah.
you needed 24 for a band like that. Just for Bill Bruford's drums, you needed that. You know.
Right. What an amazing band. And the sound of Bill Bruford and Chris Squire, that rhythm section, one of my favorite all time rhythm sections of all time. Incredible.
Well, so there you go. Yeah, I figured it was going to be. I didn't think Keith Emerson. Keith
Simple
Emerson.
things on Lucky Man
But
and
but
Father.
I knew you were going to say something about Rick Wakeman.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
absolutely.
So there
So
you go.
okay.
Have we completed? We don't want to overdo my stay. Like,
There you go. And we can always come back and do it again when you got more new stuff. So, but yeah, so we want to thank you very much for being here.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
And
Thank
anything
you.
else you want to ask me before we exit stage left? Are we
How
good?
you're in West Hills in LA. Are you dealing with the
Yeah. Are
fires?
you safe?
Glad you asked that. There was a very scary moment 48 hours ago where everyone called me and said, it's in West Hills, you got to get ready. And then there was a loud beeping noise on my phone that said, be prepared to evacuate. And then 10 minutes later, another message came in and said, that was a mistake. That mistake
Oh.
went out to 10 million people.
Oh.
I feel very lucky. I'm very concerned for the people that have lost everything. And I have an organization and we're looking to be able to maybe play a benefit concert sometime in the near future
Oh.
to try to raise
Yeah.
some money. That's what I can do, hopefully.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm hoping, we're talking about the LA fires right now because
Yes.
people may see this video months later or whatever, but I'm really hoping that people will, give to people That's what I always say. Sometimes you give to some big charity organization and you don't know where the money's going. Or like
Yes.
if you guys are going to do some kind of
Benefit.
a benefit concert or something, then give that money to those people
Right.
because it's going directly to people
To
it'll
them.
help. I know there's going to be a lot of people on the internet. We're going to see GoFundMe's all over the place. I've already given to one, and I think give to people that you just give them the money
Without
to help them.
a lot
So
of things. People are helping take care of animals. They're offering
yeah,
their homes. There's
yep,
a lot of organic things that you're talking about that
yep,
people are wanting to do, offering either
yep,
space to live or to.
yeah,
I think that it shows the good quality of people coming together. And in our divisive political world, this is something that's uniting everyone in Southern
yeah,
California. And that stuff actually does not matter. You
Yep.
want to help your brother and sister, and that's what we're doing.
yep, yep.
All
Yeah.
right. Well,
Well, we're glad you're
Thank
safe, and we
Thank
appreciate you joining us. And it's
you.
interesting to hear, all you've done, all the different things you've done.
Or as we could say, it's been a
Fascinating.
slice.
It's been a
Oh,
session. One last thing, John, the Bandcamp and my links are in your email. When you put this out, if you could
yep,
share that, that would really be helpful.
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yep,
Absolutely.
Thank
we
you
will.
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you, Morley.
Okay.
Thank you. And Cosmo, thank you very, very much.
We both appreciate it. Thank you.
There
Bye
you
bye.
go.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye,
All right.
Morley.
Bye bye, Kelly.
All views expressed in this video belong to Kelly Nicholson, John D'Amore, and guests. These discussions do not represent the opinions of any entity whatsoever with which they have been affiliated now or will be in the future. The opinions expressed are solely theirs, and since they are critically thinking human beings, these views are subject to change, subject to revision, and subject to rethinking at any time. These conversations are not meant to be taken as advice and are only for the purpose of entertainment. All statements may be based on hearsay and not necessarily valid proof of any claims in this video. It is not our intention to teach or advise on any topic. Unless otherwise noted, all photos are public domain. Thanks for watching A Slice of Life with Kelly and John.